Hi everyone, this is Binita here, and I have my colleague Deepika with me to present the topic Istio Service Mesh. This is a primer topic. I hope all of you are having a great session and hope you will enjoy this session too. So I'll just brief you about what all are the things that will be covering today. So this is the agenda. So we'll start with an orientation where we tell about monolithic architecture and how microservices came into picture, followed by what are the requirements of service mesh, like why service mesh came into a picture, mainly due to the drawbacks of microservices. From there, we will take on to our topic for today, that is Istio. We will be talking about the W's of Istio, like why Istio, what is Istio, where to use Istio, and we'll be looking through the Istio architecture, followed by what are the components of Istio, what are its core features that it provides, where we will be covering again traffic management, observability, and security, followed by we'll open up for questions. So I hope all of you will have a good session today. Over to you, Deepika.
Thank you, Benita. Benita has just now told about the agenda for the day. So we shall first start with what is a monolithic architecture, what is a microservice architecture, what are the main differences between the two types of architecture. So traditionally, the applications were built in a monolithic architecture. So when we talk about a project, it composed of modules that work together to form a self-contained application, but there are many problems associated with this kind of approach. So, as the application grows and development teams add more and more code and also more and more capabilities, it becomes more complex. So, the application as a whole becomes more complex. And as a result, the testing becomes very difficult. Upgrading the application also becomes tedious. So, as a result of all these things, reliability becomes a problem. The main thing is a bug in any one module can impact the entire application. So, in order to overcome these challenges, organizations are now transitioning from monolithic to microservice architecture. So, now the question arises, what is microservices? So, a microservice is a software development and architectural approach that structures applications as a collection of loosely coupled, autonomous, and independently deployable services. And these small business driven services have a clearly defined interfaces to communicate. And this makes the application modular. Also, it makes the application or the entire application easy to build and easy to test. And also, it makes it very efficient to deploy independently. So, what are the benefits of these microservices? The main thing is complexity is reduced to a great extent because each microservice becomes a mini application, and then the speed of the development cycle is increased. So the development teams can solely focus on developing individual services, and these can be shared across the teams. And then upgrade cycles are also fastened up. The risk is also reduced. And then these microservices can run on the cloud, they can run on a VM, they can run in a Docker container, or they can run on a serverless instance as well. And these microservices are easier to scale, and it is quicker to identify and resolve the bottlenecks. So we went through what is a microservice, what are the differences between monolithic and microservice. So we'll just see like how the microservices evolved, or at what stage the service meshes came up. In 2011, Netflix introduced Netflix OSS. So Netflix OSS is a set of frameworks and libraries that Netflix wrote in order to solve some of the distributed system problems. A lot of Netflix OSS was written at a time where things ran on an AWS cloud. And also they had made lot of assumptions about this heritage, and thus in nowadays this is not much like useful or no longer applicable. In 2013, we saw the emergence of containers, that is the Docker containers. So with the Docker containers, with the introduction of Docker containers, so we can take advantage of the powerful language agnostic infrastructures like builds, then upgrades, uh, and deployments, packaging and deployments. So in 2014, Kubernetes came into picture. So this was to handle multiple containers and orchestrate them. Uh, Kubernetes is a very strong platform, and everybody knows it is an open source container orchestration system for automating computer application deployments, packaging, scaling, and management. And in 2015, we saw the emergence of Spring Cloud, but this was mainly focused on Java applications. In the year 2018, we saw the Service Mesh, that is Istio Service Mesh, which is an open source tool, and this was introduced around 2017-2018. So, with this brief intro on the evolution of the microservices, we'll just see what are the challenges that we face when we are actually transitioning into microservices, or what are the challenges in a microservice architecture. Mainly, there are like we face a number of challenges, uh, like configuring the services, then load balancing, then monitoring, because that in traditional forms monitoring and diagnostics will not align well with the microservice architecture, because if using the traditional forms of monitoring, we cannot see how many and which microservices were actually traversed for a specific request, or like what are the microservices that are traversed and what is the path that it has taken. So all these things becomes very difficult if we are using the traditional forms of monitoring. Also, it is very important that individual services do not bring down the overall system. So that is very important. So fault tolerance at the service level becomes very important, and this is very important for the overall solution, and it becomes a very critical thing. And given the complexity of the microservices, the complex dependency chains, the failure becomes inevitable. So the engineering teams tend to spend more time in addressing these challenges rather than concentrating on the actual business goals. So, like the suburbs around the city, the number of small services that are deployed, they seem to expand exponentially. So this becomes very complex. In order to actually resolve many of these problems, service meshes came into picture. So many of the things are actually the challenges are addressed by service mesh. So what is a service mesh then? A service mesh is a configurable and a low latency infrastructure layer, and it is designed to handle a high volume of network based inter-process communications. In simple words, it is a dedicated infrastructure layer to make service to service communication faster and reliable. Also, it is an extra layer of software we deploy alongside our cluster. So, it provides a consistent way to connect, secure, and also observe the microservices. Most of the times, these service meshes are tightly integrated with an orchestration platform like Kubernetes. So the question might arise, when do we exactly need a service mesh? So when we have microservices written in many different languages and they may not follow a common architecture, then we need the service mesh. Also, when we are integrating third party code and we want a common foundation to build on, we need service mesh. When our organization keeps resolving problems, especially in the utility code, we need service mesh. And also, we know nowadays every organization has a very robust security requirements, compliance requirements, and also the auditability requirements. So, in all these cases, service mesh becomes very important, or it becomes very critical, the usage of the service mesh. So, now we shall see what are the requirements of a service mesh. The main things are, when we actually deploy a service mesh, what do we expect? We expect it to provide a service discovery. So the service discovery is how applications and the microservices locate each other on a network. Also, we expect it to provide a load balancing. This refers to efficiently distributing the incoming network traffic across a group of backend services. Also, we expect it to provide monitoring and also metrics evaluation. So this is actually checking the health of the system using different parameters. We also expect a service mesh to provide rate limiting capability. So what is rate limiting? Rate limiting is a policy used to control the number of requests a service is allowed to handle within a given time period. And also, we have like new requirements coming up when we actually transition into microservices, like canary deployment and A/B testing. I'll just give a brief about what is canary deployment and what is A/B testing. So this canary deployment or a canary release, it is actually a deployment pattern that allows applications to roll out new code or new features to a subset of users as an initial test. So, for example, when we deploy a new software version, we shift some percentage, say around 10% of our user base, to use the new version, while we maintain the remaining 90% of users on the older version. So, if this 10% does not report any error, we can then roll it out gradually to more users. Or if this 10% reports more problems or it reports problems, then we can just roll back. And then the 90% of users will never see the problem. Also, there is another requirement, that is A B testing. So, this A B testing is also known as split testing. This is a process of showing two variants of the same web page to different segments of the website visitors at the same time. And then we make a comparison what turns out like to more conversions. So, based on that, we actually generate the thing. So, this is about A B testing. So these are the requirements of service mesh. Now we shall see like the topic of our day, that is the Istio service mesh. What is an Istio service mesh? So how does it actually cater to all these needs? So Istio is a service mesh. Uh, it is designed to connect, manage, and secure microservices. It is an open source project and it is created by Google, IBM, and Lyft. And also, um, it does not introduce new functionality into an application's runtime environment. So it requires zero code change. This is the greatest advantage of Istio. So it provides capabilities like connect, like Istio enables services to discover and talk to each other. That is the microservices to discover and talk to each other. And then it provides security. It allows like secure communication between services. It can enforce policies to allow or block any of the network communications. And then it provides monitoring capabilities. So it enables observability of the distributed microservice system. It often integrates out of the box with monitoring and tracing tools like Prometheus, Jaeger, such tools. Vinita, next. Yeah. So next, why do we need to use Istio? So Istio actually provides automatic load balancing for HTTP, gRPC, WebSocket, and TCP traffic. The gRPC is the modern lightweight communication protocol from Google. It is roughly 7 times faster than REST. And then Istio provides fine-grained control of traffic behavior. It has a rich routing rules, retries, and failover mechanisms. And then it provides a pluggable policy layer and configuration API supporting access controls. It also provides automatic metrics, logs, and traces for all the traffics within a cluster. So traffic mainly are of two types, ingress traffic and the egress traffic. Ingress is the collection of rules that allow inbound connections, and then egress is the collection of rules that allow the outbound connections. Also, it provides secure service to service communication in a cluster. And then now I mean we would think like who can use Istio, who it is actually suited for. It is basically suited for every other people in the IT industry. So it is suited for infrastructure operators who can use it to monitor traffic across clusters and the regions. They can also add failover mechanisms. And then it is best suited for platform engineers to build CI/CD tools, for app developers or migrate the legacy services. It is also good for the app developers because they can investigate the service metrics and behavior, and also it provides mechanisms to debug during outages. Even security admins can use it to enforce authentication and authorization policies. It can also be used by the quality assurance team to mirror the production traffic to a test environment. So with all these intro and with a basic intro on Istio, we jump on to the Istio architecture, and my colleague Binita will take over. Over to you, Binita.
Thank you, Deepika. I hope by now all of you are at least aware of like what is a service mesh, why do we need a service mesh, and what is Istio and where Istio comes in picture. Now, like Deepika said, right, there are a lot of challenges with microservices. So how you can overcome these challenges is via a service mesh. Now, how exactly does a service mesh, or in this case, Istio does this? So if you want to understand that, you need to understand what is the architecture and components of Istio. So the diagram which you see on the screen, right, that is like a 10,000 feet if you see, right? Basically, Istio consists of two planes. One is called as a data plane and one is called as a control plane. Now let's dig a little deep into what is a data plane and control plane. So if you see, right, in earlier what it used to be is you have a pod which has a service running. Now, if you see in Istio, right, you will always see that along with your service, that is application, you have something called as proxy. So these are called as sidecar proxies, and any communication that needs to happen between two services need to go via these proxies. So there is no direct communication between a service A and service B. Whatever it has to communicate, it has to go via its corresponding proxies. So that is where proxy comes into picture. Now, if you're asking why do we need a proxy does a lot of things like load balancing, timeouts, and lot of features it actually adds. So in Istio, data plane is nothing but your service along with the proxies. Now, in the coming up slide, we will talk a little more deep about all these components. The second uh, component that's like the brain of Istio is a control plane. So you will see that this diagram is from Istio 1.5 onwards, and it hasn't changed since then. So the control plane actually consists of mainly three components called as pilot, citadel, and galley. So in just in high level terms, if I say pilot is something like the driver of Istio. So pilot is a component that is actually responsible for pushing the configurations to your proxies. So if I'm saying pushing the configuration to proxies, there is somebody who is pushing that to pilot, right? And that is where Galley comes into picture. So Galley is a configuration manager of Istio. And thirdly, we have something called a Citadel, which actually handles all the security aspects that is done by Istio. Also, this control plane is actually responsible for dynamic service discovery, configuration, and also managing certificates, etc. So now you have your data plane, you have your control plane. So where where best how does traffic hit my mesh, if you ask, right, or hit my service? That is where ingress traffic comes into picture. Just now Deepika was telling about ingress and egress traffic. So it's like all incoming traffic is called as ingress traffic, and anything which is going out of your mesh to the external is called as egress traffic. So this is the overall picture of Istio architecture. Now let's let's explain a little more about all these components. So coming to the data plane, as I discussed, it's nothing but it is a set of intelligent proxies which is deployed as sidecar along with your services. Now, lot of the capabilities which Istio has comes from third party, and in this case, it mainly comes from Envoy proxies. Envoy proxies are really intelligent and they do a lot of data. Okay, and this is a third party which can be integrated to any clusters. Now, you might be wondering, okay, if it can be integrated, then why can't I just take Envoy proxy like that? Why do I need to use Istio? The problem is Envoy proxy is like a low level tool and it can't be directly consumed. So even if you have to use it, you have to go through their documentation, you have to understand the configuration and make this Envoy proxy configurable with your services, which is not a easy task. Now, what Istio does is Istio shields away all these complexities of Envoy, and it is actually, when you install Istio, it is installed as you have a pod that is running along with your services. That's done by Istio. Now, as I said, you can see the animation there. When a service A wants to talk to a service B, all the communication should happen between, via, not between, via their proxies. So in this case, service A, sends a request to service B. First, it hits its proxy, which will be, after validation, authentication, authorization, it will be forwarded to the Envoy proxy of service B. And if it is valid, then that whatever is the service request is given by service B. Now, if you a little more data into Envoy proxy, this is a C++ based L4L7 proxy. This has a very low memory footprint, and this has been battle tested at Lyft. There are few things that have written just to tell about the performance of Envoy proxies. So if you're wondering more like, why do we need Envoy proxy? I'll just show you a diagram which clearly tells us how life of a node or a pod was before these proxies came into picture. So if you see the diagram in front of you, you can see that you have a container. Obviously, your container will have your service, but along with your service, did you see you have to write? That is, a developer has to write logic for the discovery of other services, the load balancing techniques, resiliency, metrics collection, tracing. All these things had to be done by the developer. And remember, this has to be done for all the uh, pods or all the services. So instead of just focusing on your business logic, you are spending like 5 times more of your time and effort on writing logic for discovery, load balancing, etc. So this was like a pain. It was a very painful thing. So what happens is once Envoy comes into picture, you see how simplified that became. All the developers need to do is just write business logic, concentrate writing on the business logic. Rest everything, that is discovery, load balancing, all of these are taken care by the sidecar container. Now, also one more thing which I want to tell here is, when you are writing your application and you see that there is a proxy that is running along with your application, trust me, these are not going to mingle with one another. Neither the sidecar container is going to add their its code to your application, nor vice versa. So that is like one of the biggest advantage. So if you see this diagram, you will clearly understand what all are the things that proxy does: tracing, metrics collection, discovery, load balancing, timeouts, etc. So that's pretty much about the data plane. Now let's talk about the control plane. So as I said, from Istio 1.5 onwards, right? This Pilot, Citadel, and Galley have been, as unified as a single binary called as Istio-D. Now all these three things combinedly to, does is it does a discovery, that is service discovery, configuration management, and certificate management. Now, as I said, right, you can't directly talk to proxy. So what happens is, as I said, right, Pilot is like the actual driver of Istio. So it is basically the main thing. What Pilot does is whatever configuration it receives, that is being actually pushed to the proxies using Pilot. Also, Pilot is responsible for A/B testing, canary deployment, timeouts, etc. Now, if you're wondering, like, what's it Galley does is, Galley is actually the configuration manager of Istio. So Istio basically extends your Kubernetes using CRD, that is custom resource definitions. So to apply any of your Istio configuration, all you have to do is you have to write your Kubernetes YAML file, apply it to the Kubernetes. Istio Galley will receive that configuration, validate it, and pass it to your Pilot, which will push it to the proxies of all service. Now, so that's what basically Pilot and Galley always comes hand to hand. And last but not the least, we have Citadel. So Citadel is the one which actually gives strong identity to each of the services. Okay, because it is the one who is actually responsible for generating certificates, authentication, authorization, all these things are being pushed to the proxies using the Citadel, again via Pilot. So that's pretty much about your control plane. Now let's talk about what are the core features of Istio. So, when we talk about Istio, the major feature that Istio offers is nothing but traffic management. The second one is observability. The third is security. Now let's check one by one what exactly are these. So when I say about traffic management, right, you need to really know like what is exactly happening inside your mesh. What is happening inside your mesh? You want to know how the services are being, requested, or are being addressed. So all these things are a part of traffic management. You can do a lot of automation using Istio, and also you can also write granular policies like what Deepika said, right? Canary deployments, A/B testing, all those type of testing can be done with the help of traffic management. Now, when I say about traffic management, we will be saying about timeout, retry, circuit breaking, safe rollouts, traffic splitting, client side load balancing. So all these things are easily taken care by traffic management. But before you deep dive into this, right, you need to know what are the three important components that actually comes into picture when it comes to traffic management. So as I said, right, you remember I was telling about the ingress gateway. So anything that comes from your external, uh, you know any inbound or external, internal or external traffic that is coming to you, first hit something called as gateway. So gateway are like load balancers basically. So describes a load balancer operating at the edge of your mesh that receives incoming and outgoing HTTP TCP connections. Now also in this gateway, right, you can actually write specification that actually tells you that what type of, what all ports are exposed, what is the type of protocol to use, etc. So these granular policies can be written in your gateway. Also, whether I'm talking about gateway, virtual service, or destination rules, all of these are actually based on Envoy proxies. So this is just a diagram which shows all your external traffic, whether it is inbound or outbound, first has to hit either ingress gateway or the egress gateway to go inside your mesh. Now, the second thing that you need to understand is virtual service. So once your request have passed from the gateway, it is a virtual service that decides which is the destination it has to go to final destination, not final destination, which destination it has to go to. So a virtual service defines a set of request routing rules that can be used to distribute traffic to different destinations in the service mesh. So this diagram is pretty clear. So you have a user, and between the user and the virtual service was your gateway. And from that gateway, here we have used a 50-50 traffic splitting. It goes to a destination. Now, once it reaches a destination, from there, destination rule is applied. So destination rules, matlab, rules as in like, uh, you can tell that, okay, the traffic has to go to the least uh, uh, traffic, whichever the subset of them has the least traffic, go there. Or you can just pick some random way. So, or least request, which had the least request, or some weighted metrics you can use to again go to the, push it to the final uh, destination. And don't get confused between virtual service and your regular microservice, because these two are completely different. Virtual service is something that is actually done for passing your request. These are part of Envoy proxies, while your service is like your application, actual application, part of your actual application. Now, the second thing that we are going to talk about is observability. So when I say about observability, there are plenty of tools that Istio helps in giving a visual, not just visual, lot of data also from the same. Like we say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. If you have a graph in front of you, and imagine one which is animated, it's even more better, right? So we have telemetry for every service. We can log or logs for all traffic. Also, we have different types of service graph. So we will talk about few of the observability tools which we found very interesting when we were doing a workshop. So the first one, I mean, this is like a go-to tool when it comes to Istio. That's Kiali, because Kiali is something which is made for Istio, and it actually answers a lot of questions like what all services are there in my mesh, how are they operating, how are they communicating with each other, how is, so many things it actually helps you. And it has a lot of animation features which tells how much time does it take to route, which of my node or which of my service is actually going bad, or which is is not getting service, or which is having it's going down, it's not requesting it, it's not addressing any request. So all these things are taken care when it comes to Kiali. Also, it has a lot of workload graph which you can actually use to explore the capabilities. Plus a lot of things which you actually write YAML and then apply, right? Like making a virtual service or destination rules, all these things can be just done via a click when you are using Kiali console. Second, this most of them would have at least seen this. This is nothing but the Grafana dashboard, which actually helps in health monitoring, also network traffic topology. It also tells about how much memory is used by each services, how much CPU is consumed. But you can actually take this tool or you can leave it. I mean, it's up to you. Grafana, I won't say it's like a go-to tool, but Kiali is. The last tool that we would suggest is Yagar. Why Yagar? Yagar is an excellent tool when it comes to tracing your individual request. You have a request from service A to service X. What happens, for that service? All that individual things can be traced using Yagar. Also, this is a best tool for root cause analysis. And any crash that happens, you can see how many hops has done for that particular request, how many time it has spent on each of the services, which will help you in understanding that okay, it is in this particular service it is taking too much time to address that request. So you can do something to improve that, and thereby improving the overall latency of that request. So Jaeger, Kiali, and Grafana are the tools for observability. Now, coming to security. So, one of the go-to feature for Istio is its security aspect. So, you might be actually wondering that, configuring uh, your services with an HTTP or a TLS connection is like pretty much forward, right? But in reality, it is not that forward, because you have no idea that whether you have the right certificates, whether you are the certificates which your certificate authority have signed in for you, will your client accept that certificate? You have no idea. Also, are we using the right cipher suits? So there are plenty of problems that comes along with uh, when you want to have control the security aspect on your services. Also, this has to be like uniform for all services, so that there is less complication going forward. And if you talk about what is the Istio security, right? You look at the diagram and the control plane, right? In the control plane you can see that there is definitely a certificate authority which is responsible for certificate management and key management. Then you have an API server configuration that will configure your proxies. Okay, proxies with authentication policies, authorization policies, and also the network configuration. And your peripheral proxies, that is your gateways, ingress, virtual service, and your corresponding your proxies, the proxies which are along with your services. So these are called as the endpoints, where all these configurations are being pushed, or security configurations are pushed, so that you will make sure that nobody can attack in the middle. Now, when I say about this, right, we have to know something about MTLS. So that is what actually it is written over here. In Istio, it is taken care with JWT and TLS, where MTLS is something like, first of all, if you want to send a request to your, before even sending a request to your server, right, first the client and the server has to validate each other. Now, once they have validated each other, what the client does is the client sends a request which is encrypted, okay, which is encrypted, and the server will be having, the server side proxy will be having a key to decrypt whatever the request that has been sent by the client. So that is MTLS. Now, what is JWT is JSON Web Tokens. Now, that exactly tells whether the user is authenticated and what all claims he has, or what all access policies he has. So that is JWT. So along these two things along forms like a core of the Istio security. So there are two things you can do. So it's not easy for anybody to just jump in and migrate it to a service mesh. So when you're actually migrating to service mesh, you always have to use permissive MTLS. So permissive MTLS means, just remember, I just now I was telling, right? You have to make sure that the client, once the client and server validates each other, they have to encrypt the traffic, and the client will encrypt and send it to the server. The server will decrypt it, right? Now, in case of permissive, this need not be encrypted. It will accept both encrypted as well as the plain request, and that will be addressed. But once you have, and this is very good when even when your client is not ready to actually if you want to push the proxy and the client is not yet ready, then we can use this. But once your setup is complete and it's up and running, right? That is when you actually go for strict MTLS, where you have to make sure that only if this is decrypted and already the client is validated, I will be servicing your request. So these are the two things which you can switch and which Istio provides. So that comes to the end of our session. Before I wrap up this session, I just want to thank two of my colleagues, that is Prashant KSR and Netra, for helping us. Actually, we were part of a team when we were actually conducting a workshop. So thanks to both of them. They're not here right now. So the key takeaways, you know, uh, is like you might have understood, like, what is monolithic, what is microservices, what are its challenges, how service mesh came into picture, and also probably you will have some understanding of what Istio is and how it is a good service mesh. So we are open for questions if you have any. Yeah, Sunita. So it's basically like Yagar is for like distributed tracing tool. Like you want to check out this individual request, then we use Yagar. Whereas Kiali gives an overall picture about your service mesh. And you can see the actual connections that are being established between a service mesh, which shows that okay, service A can communicate to service B. So all these things, all those complete observability is given by Kiali. One of the major thing that has come up with this Istio is like, while compared to other similar tools, recently it have actually started supporting even VMs, not just Kubernetes cluster, but also VMs. Yes, Kiali and all are like, it is free, so you can use it.
They're all open source tools. You can actually install
Use
and
it,
use
and
them.
you will actually be more interested to read, and it will make your life a lot more easier, is what we felt.
True. If you have no more questions, probably we can wrap up the session and join the next available sessions. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great session ahead.